Welcome everyone to today's webinar discussing the monthly print and online publication, UAS Magazine. We are excited for all of you to be here with us today. My name is Luke Geiver and I'm the managing editor of the magazine. A few quick housekeeping notes before we discuss our magazine's place in one of the most intriguing and really transformative industries in the world. Today's webinar will be recorded and available on our website, theuasmagazine.com, within the next 2 weeks. Joining me on today's webinar is John Nelson, Director of Marketing and Sales for all of our UAS Magazine efforts. With any questions following today's discussion, please contact John or myself. During today's webinar, we will be covering a wide range of topics, as you can see here on the second slide. In addition to an explanation of our magazine, I'll discuss the current issue and give everyone on the webinar a sneak peek at future stories and why we're excited about them and we really think they're important to the industry. Also, please stay on the webinar till the end to learn about an exclusive discount that John will explain. Now, I'd like to get into the industry and our magazine. For anyone listening today, it goes without saying that the UAS industry is really in the midst of an incredible era. For those of us in the U.S., the industry is on the brink of breaking out into full commercialization. For the past 6 months, our team of writers, designers, and business development representatives have been working behind the scenes to create a print and online platform that will act as the publication of a record for the current and future state of all things UAS. We've been to UAS events, demonstrations, groundbreakings, training facilities, and as you might imagine, our travel schedule for the future is completely full. Expect to see us at your next event or your next groundbreaking or facility when invited. Just be prepared because when invited, we'll typically be there. We've also had many candid conversations with too many industry representatives to mention here, many of which are on record and in print, and some that were off record. We've been putting together various length stories for both the web and print, along with infographics put together by our team of designers, and other feature-length examination and trend pieces for the print magazine. As the slide shows here, our editorial scope is guided by what we think is a fairly simple premise. We want to write about anything happening or anything that matters in the commercial operations sector, the manufacturing world, and the continuous evolution of UAS implementation for prospective users. Our readers really expect to gain an understanding of the business side of UAS in combination with updates on policy, regulation, and technologic advancements. And, as we all know, each of the previously mentioned elements of the industry are constantly changing, some faster than others. To give you a better understanding of what we cover, I wanted to share our 5 key coverage areas in the magazine that really help guide us in our editorial scope. We use these 5 coverage areas for each of our print and online stories. We tag each story with one of these coverage areas that you see here: manufacturing and distribution, operations, engineering and design, policy and regulation, and payload, to help readers understand what an individual piece may be about, and for those looking to search for stories on our website, an easier way to find stories on a given topic. The 5 key areas listed here represent the core of the industry's transformation as our magazine team sees it. They also represent the areas we believe matter most to any individual or business interested in or already invested into UAS. Our editorial focus is guided by these 5 areas because stories in each category can, will, and already have helped all entities involved with UAS in their respective decision-making processes. I want to talk briefly about these story tags before we move on. For manufacturing and distribution, we are currently working on a Nevada-based firm that has relocated to the state to build UAVs. That story on that particular firm will detail the challenges and solutions for that company in its quest to build UAVs. For any entity looking to better understand what it takes to manufacture or distribute a product built in the USA, excuse me, this story really will be a must-read. For operations, and before getting ahead of myself in discussion we'll talk about further on in this webinar, the operations tag has a story we are currently running on a Texas-based professional UAV operator. The story exemplifies what readers can expect with stories tagged under operations. The story really highlights new techniques and proven strategies for UAV operations in the U.S. It shows what the big difference is really between professional certified UAV operators and hobbyist operators using UAVs for hobby and sport as opposed to commercial operations. In the engineering and design category, we have stories that allow us to share the incredible advancements in UAV structures and designs. On a daily basis, our team truly is blown away at the new designs entering the commercial space. With this tag, expect to gain current intel on the latest and greatest through stories in engineering and design. For the sake of consistency, I'll explain our policy and regulation tag, although I think many of us on this call know that it goes without saying policy and regulation is important to the UAS industry now, maybe more than ever. It's an industry in the midst of an unprecedented policy and regulatory formation period. At times, those policies and regulations change quickly. Our print stories will have and have not only been timely, but produced with an unprecedented level of depth. And finally, we have the payload category. Sometimes our team jokes if we had a product testing division, the number of payload offerings would keep that hypothetical division busy all year. Granted, we would be busy doing fun things, testing out really interesting new products. And as the industry advances and new imaging or power source offerings become available, expect to read about them here. Now, on the topic of reading, I'd like to pass it over to John Nelson so he can answer an important question we feel is important for everyone on the call today. Who is our audience?
Thanks, Luke. UAS Magazine offers companies three main ways to advertise and reach the audience we have assembled. The first is via online advertising on the UASmagazine.com, which is updated multiple times a week with new and original content. The second is via e-newsletter advertising on the UAS weekly e-newsletter, which contains the latest news and stories about the UAS industry that took place that week, and it's emailed to 30,000 industry professionals. And the third, and probably most important, is advertising via the print publication, which is sent to 7,500 UAS industry professionals and decision makers each month. So let's take a closer look at each segment. The UAS magazine is mailed to 7,500 unmanned air professionals every month, as I just mentioned, and they're focused on doing business inside the UAS industry. And we know from a recent readership survey that our industry magazines have a pass-along rate of 1.5 people per issue. So using those numbers, each issue of UAS magazine is read at a minimum of 11,250 times by people looking to buy new products and learn about the latest technologies and policies inside the industry. What's even more impressive is that we send copies of our magazine to groups who are focused on the industry. For example, we mail to 3,100 AUVSI members, attendees and exhibitors of AUVSI's Unmanned Systems Conference, and all attendees of the UAS Summit held in the Upper Midwest. We also mail the magazine to executives, marketers, and business development people inside the groups you see listed on this slide. So for example, AUV manufacturers, distributors, professionals inside the precision ag industry, people who are involved with energy monitoring, and so on. One thing I want to cover here is taking a look at our web presence. And the UAS industry web presence continues to grow through the ongoing posting of our original stories to the website, search engine optimization strategies, the digital issue of our magazine, blogs, and the industry directory. We continue to increase our traffic with advertising starting at just $95 per month you'll be able to use our traffic as an affordable way to promote your business. And I want to note that we base all of our numbers, all of our web traffic numbers off Google Analytics, and if you want more specifics or want more information on our traffic, you can contact Bob or Austin, our senior account managers, and they'll be more than happy to provide you with some additional information. I'd also like to note that this is a very niche audience, and you can be assured that the people visiting our site are professionals focused specifically on the UAS industry. Our next slide contains our social media sites. So every story that we write, all the original content that we produce, is posted onto our social media networks. We have social media networks built on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and LinkedIn. You can find us on all those different networks. And why that's important to you as an advertiser is because when we post those stories are retweeted or liked, and they're opened by people from all over the U.S., all over North America, all over the world. And when they open those links, they're going back to our website. They're going back to the UASmagazine.com and reading those stories. And that's where we want them to go, because that's where your advertisement, your online advertisement that you purchased, is located, and hopefully they see your online ad and they click on it. So it's part of our online strategy to increase traffic to our website. So we want to make sure you're aware that we are actively adding people to our social media network and posting to our social media networks. And then one last note I'd like to make sure you're aware of, that UAS Magazine is the only monthly printed publication in the U.S. focused solely on the UAS industry. And by leveraging our print, online, and email advertising options, you can be assured that you are reaching the right audience and the right people who are doing business in the UAS industry. One last thing I want to cover here is our sponsorships for the UAS webinar series. And the UAS Magazine webinar series is a unique advertising option for companies that are looking to engage a specific audience for 90 minutes at a time. BBI International, which is the parent company of UAS Magazine, has produced many webinars in the past with our other publications that we produce. And attendance for these webinars has been strong because these events are content-driven and provide valuable information to the attendees provided from our industry expert panelists. As a sponsor, you'll have your logo with URL listed on all of the emails that are sent out promoting the webinar, which we have roughly 150,000 per webinar. You'll also be listed on the registration page on the UAS Magazine's website. You'll be on online advertisements, the weekly e-newsletter ads, and our on-demand webinar section of UAS Magazine. Since the launch of our webinar series, we've had nearly 9,000 professionals register and have averaged roughly 250 attendees per webinar. Without a doubt, because we've done so many of these, we're confident that this is one of the best ways you can identify companies and people interested in a specific topic within the unmanned air industry. And most importantly, in addition to all the promotional benefits I listed, as the main sponsor of our webinars, we physically give you the contact information of all the attendees and registrants of the webinar, email included. So if you're interested in more information about our webinars, please contact Bob or Austin at our office. And with that, I want to hand it over to Luke, and I guess I just want to ask him if he has any more thoughts on our webinars and the content that he provides with his team.
Thanks, John. I just had a quick note about the webinars that I think is worth knowing. One thing to remember about the webinar series that we put on from an editorial side is that it really offers the speakers and the panelists that we set up on those webinars a chance to, in essence, showcase their expertise for researchers or payload providers or developers of any kind that feel they have something to offer to the industry. If they're chosen for these webinars, it really gives them a good platform to highlight some of the success they've had Before we move on past the webinars and some of the magazine stats, I did want to point out that John truly has proven why he's sort of a marketing guru in connecting all of these different media platforms into a way that helps people that invest in our brand and invest in the magazine and the stories that we write get their message in front of the most important people that matter to them. And I'm sure when anyone wants to talk about any of those methods, John is always and will be more than happy to talk about some of those things. Now I want to take a step back and, as this slide says, give you an inside look at the magazine. This slide is representative of what our magazine offers. The November issue includes multiple feature-length pieces, smaller department stories, test site updates, and news coverage that we liken more to trend coverage. We describe our news pieces with the word trend because for us in the publishing world, we are working 2 months ahead of current time. Because of that, we like to take timely news worthy of making it to print, and then we re-examine the critical portions of those stories and compile them into relevant articles based on past news into bigger print-worthy pieces that offer a broader picture of what several news pieces can kind of show in terms of a trend. For breaking news, of course, our website offers us a platform to get what we call that writer's high when you know you've just posted a story that will impact the entire industry. We may not have a news ticker on our website, but we do have the stories always posted on our website in a timely fashion. Because we believe our readers will always be in a constant quest to learn about the state of the industry, our team is looking for stories that include examples of how the industry is evolving. Patrick Miller, an amazing staff writer on our team, has compiled a story we are proud of because of its depth. In his piece, Looking to Save Lives, as this slide shows, Miller follows the story of Gene Robinson, a commercially certified UAV pilot, and his quest to help in the search for a missing Texas woman. Many of you may have heard about this story in the past 6 months on national news coverage. Patrick's story offers a glimpse into the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration certification of authorization process, the world of commercial UAV operations, and how the business of UAS is changing. For the story, Miller spoke with the UAV operator Robinson, the business involved in the search, and the U.S. FAA on their work with supplying an emergency COA. In that same issue, we also included a story on a unique training facility in Minnesota. The story provides an update on how future UAV technicians can be trained and why the future looks bright. Not pictured here, but also worth mentioning, was our coverage of the FAA-selected test sites. As we all know, what happens at the test sites impact the future of the industry. We can all expect future coverage live from each site. I'm personally looking forward to a trip to Alaska. Our headquarters are also within a short drive of many of the activities happening in North Dakota. As I discussed previously, we compile news in a way that shows a larger picture of the state of the industry, and as this slide exemplifies, it shows how readers can expect to gain a snapshot of popular trends or happening in the industry in our news and trends section. This particular slide was taken from our November issue that, as the title of the piece shows, how states have passed UAS privacy, economic, or law enforcement rules. Our graphic design team did a nice job in putting together a timeline of FAA UAS regulation goals, along with a map that shows where certain states have implemented certain regulations. The slide here shows a column penned by Michael Toscano, President and CEO of AUVSI. There really is no better source for information on the political happenings and regulatory actions taking place in the world of unmanned than the Association for Unmanned Vehicle Systems International. Our team is incredibly excited to announce that Our magazine will offer that perspective nearly every month with a column penned by AUVSI originally for UAS Magazine. We're happy to help AUVSI voice our success stories and challenges within the UAS sector and give voices that matter in the industry like Mr. Toscano a chance to truly share what type of work and successes they've had in following what the FAA is doing and helping the FAA in their efforts in this unprecedented regulatory time frame for the industry. In addition to feature pieces, news and trends pieces, and columns from folks like AUVSI, we'll also have editorial perspective like you see here. For those of you out there, that is my picture there in the upper left-hand corner. In traditional magazine fashion, I'll include perspective on each issue of the magazine. Our endnotes allow us to give the reader a unique perspective and relevant tidbits of information that may not have a place in a feature story or news piece, but do shine light on a given topic that will aid in any decision-making process. I like to think of the endnote in many cases as a chance to allow myself or Patrick Miller or our other staff writer, Emily Ossen, a chance to include some tidbits from stories they put together that didn't have a place in the story, but will really be talk-worthy tidbits later on. What you see here is some of the mock covers that we had for our November issue. The cover highlighted in yellow, with a yellow boundary there, is actually the cover we chose. I think all of us on the call today are presented with certain situations that are rewarding but incredibly difficult. For our team, the cover choice is always difficult. We actually create several mock covers each month and then toil away talking about the merits of each. I think it will be hard to top our November issue's cover taken from some work being done in Nevada, but rest assured we will come up with better covers each and every month. Please note our covers are never for sale, but if you have a story that matters to the industry, you can expect someday to get a call from our team regarding a setup time for a cover shoot. Now, after we've gone through what we have produced, I want to give everyone here that listened on the call today a sneak peek at what we will produce. I want to take a few minutes to share the stories we are currently working on. Earlier this fall, the U.S. FAA provided a regulatory exemption to 6 aerial photo and video production companies. Many believe it was a significant step for the industry. Miller, our amazing staff writer, and I'm saying that again because after you read his work you will agree, is working on the story profiling the exemption and what it truly means for the industry. To do so, he's already spoken with every firm that was provided an exemption to give insight into their process and success in gaining the exemption. And due to the nature of the story, expect some amazing accompanying images like the one seen here. Patrick didn't have a chance to ride in that Corvette, but I think he's working on it for a future story. Along with Miller's piece, Emily Offen, another great writer for our team, has uncovered one of those stories that may have regretfully gone under the radar if it weren't for top quality story coverage. Earlier this year, she had a chance to talk with a Detroit-based company that's begun manufacturing UAVs. She's actually putting together a feature piece right now on that Detroit-based firm's efforts in building UAVs for the city with the help of major UAV industry player Lockheed Martin. She'll share what the manufacturer is looking for in its process and how it has and will find financial success in the future. If, of course, anyone on this call has any questions on these stories, has ideas of your own for the future, or you ever just want to talk UAS shop, please don't hesitate to give myself, Miller, or anyone else on our team, Emily Hassan included, a call at any time. And to close out today's webinar, I want to pass it back over to John.
Thanks a lot, Luke. Definitely appreciate that insight and overview. We'd like to thank today's sponsor, our webinar series sponsor, and it's UAS Magazine's UAS Week e-newsletter. And you can log in to the UASmagazine.com and subscribe for free, both to that e-newsletter and get the latest news and information weekly in your inbox. You can also register and sign up for our monthly print publication free of charge. And last, for being on this call today, we want to offer you a special exclusive discount. You can save 35% on one full-page print advertisement in UAS Magazine, and it's exclusive only to new advertisers, and it expires January 1st, 2015. So if you do want to take advantage of that, you can contact us at the information below and say, hey, I was on your webinar, I saw this, I'd like to test drive UAS Magazine. We put this out there in efforts that hopefully allows you to maybe try it out and see how it works out for you. So with that, we appreciate you being on today's webinar and hope you'll consider making UAS Magazine a part of your marketing plan for 2015. Thank you and have a great day.